Is the Toronto housing affordability issue getting you down? This is what we're going to discuss today. But first, show reel, hit it. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It only takes 1 second and it really helps with my YouTube algorithm. Now today we're going to be discussing all about Toronto's housing market and the issue of affordability. Ontario's housing affordability crisis is very complex. And like all complex issues, there's a myriad of causes, but on the bright side, there's also a lot of different solutions. But where does one start for this? One of the key solutions that has been batted around in the market is there should be a restriction in housing costs. Right now, homes cost at least 6 times the average income. Or another solution, not only should they build more homes, but or more affordable housing. Nowhere, in fact, is this more evident than in Toronto. Now, recently, Toronto actually surpassed Vancouver even, because everyone knows Vancouver to be very expensive, as the most expensive city to live in the country. So it was second most expensive, now it's most expensive. And housing in Canada's largest city has actually become less affordable, with 30% or more of household income being spent on shelter, and this is according to Canada's Mortgage and Housing Corporation. So this means that most Torontonians are hugely priced out of the market and hugely priced out of purchasing homes. Because remember earlier in the video I said that homes are priced at 6 times the average income. So what are the main causes of this housing crisis that we're seeing these days? Well, one of the often cited causes of this huge crisis that we're seeing is a supply problem. Everyone knows that there's a supply issue in Toronto and other cities. These exorbitant costs are actually causing Ontarians to compete for the same limited numbers of houses. That's one key factor. It's also important to understand that the housing crisis in Ontario is actually much more complex. It's not just a supply and demand issue. There's so many different causes. There is even debate about whether or not the housing supply crisis is even the most significant cause. So for instance, many actually speculate that the rising cost of housing is greatly outpacing wage growth. So for instance, in Toronto, buying a home is roughly about 300% more costly than it was in the 1990s. The median income, meanwhile, has essentially remained the same. In 2022, it would actually take a middle earning household saving 10% every month for 24 years to save enough for a down payment of an average home in this great city of ours. Now, in the early 1990s, on the other hand, a similar household would have actually had to save for 2 years. Only 2 years for a similar home. So this is crazy. These statistics are just outpacing us altogether. There's speculation that another cause is also coming into play here. With homes being increasingly treated as an investment to buy and sell, as opposed to actually to a basic human right of having a home, first-time home buyers usually have to compete against wealthy multi-property homeowners and international investors. And another factor is actually a lack of affordable housing. So in the 1990s, the federal government actually de-invested in social housing projects. And this left Toronto very short in fact of 100,000 units of social housing that would have actually helped over the years to alleviate the crisis that we're seeing today. And this is what we would have seen in some segments of the city's population over the years. If we really truly want to understand Ontario's housing affordability crisis as it is, we actually have to look at the supply chain and the inflationary climate. Interest rate hikes from the Bank of Canada are actually seeing the country through an inflationary period. We all know this. But while those hikes should technically help to decrease the cost of houses, a supply shortage is keeping prices very high and very tight. In addition to a lack of inventory, there are actually shortages of workers, shortages of developers and resources, as well as materials, among so many other things. So it's a supply chain issue. Another factor fueling this housing crisis is the talent gap. The unemployment to job vacancy rate in Canada is at an all-time historic low, meaning that there are more jobs than people to fill that work. And like most industries, the home building industry is feeling the same strain that we're seeing in other industries, with not enough skilled and trained professionals or workers to build the homes and the houses we need during this crisis. What are the possible solutions? Well, just as there are so many causes to the housing crisis, you can add a few more solutions. Some feel that it's a necessity to restrict the availability of credit. Some blame the current housing bubble on a move by the federal government made in the 1970s, which was to stop intervening in the credit market and thereby allowing the private sector to call the shots. So to fight the housing crisis at this point, the feds could actually restrict housing costs to 4 times household income, with the aim to bring down the cost to 3 times the average income. So one thing's pretty clear: the affordable homes should be built in urban centers like Toronto and not rural settings, because that's a whole other can of worms. We're unlikely to solve all the problems posed by the housing crisis at this point, but it will ease the competition in the homeowner and rental markets if we are able to solve this somewhat. Not only would affordable housing help low-income people, but it could also support potential home buyers that are trying to save for down payment on their first home. While housing subsidies for units and individuals are a short-term solution, the simple fact is that in Ontario and in Toronto in particular, there are just simply not enough permanent affordable housing units to actually meet the demand. And with ongoing immigration, this issue continues to be compounded. So here are a few easy to implement options for you in the short term if you are actually looking to get into the market sooner rather than later. Number 1, you can purchase your first home with 5% down versus 20% down, and you will obviously need mortgage insurance, but that's okay. Number 2, consider purchasing a multiplex, or one that can actually easily be converted into a multiplex, or that could be a duplex, a triplex, or what have you. Whatever you can do. That way, and when you're renting out part of your home, the other party could be involved in offsetting your mortgage payments. Number 3, co-ownership. This is obviously a possibility if you have a close friend or a relative that you could purchase a home together with. You could draw up a ownership contract with a lawyer, and that's strongly recommended. Number 4, use a private family lender. Better yet, if a family member is planning to gift you some money at some point anyway down the road, they could perhaps advance it. Just a thought. Number 5, take advantage of the buyer incentive program. This buyer incentive program offers you 5 to 10% for first-time home buyers on the purchase of a newly constructed home, or 5% on a resale home. In terms of the government, they obviously share in the ups and downs that you actually will see in the market, and that's okay. You'll eventually have to pay it back. Number 6, the home buyer's plan. So you can borrow up to $35,000 from your RSP, plus the same from your spouse's RSP. So that could actually come in very handy. Number 7 is a first-time homebuyer's tax credit. And you can claim $5,000 of a non-refundable income tax credit for purchasing a home while you file your taxes. That could come in handy as well. Number 8, the GST or HST housing rebate. And this will allow you to at least recover some of the HST paid for a new or substantially renovated home if this is a circumstance you're finding yourself in. So as you can see, there's not an easy fix whatsoever to this housing issue. If it is getting in your way, you will need to create a plan with your agent, and this plan should be very creative, and hopefully your agent will work creatively to help you find a plan to get you into the housing market. So I hope you found this information helpful. If you're thinking of moving to Toronto or anywhere in Canada or worldwide, don't forget to contact us on your favorite social media platform. We've always got your back and we've always got you covered. Until next time, this is Pamela Haines from Homes by Pam, helping you with your real estate matters.